Hey everyone, Ismail Adusalam, Beats Boxing Mayhem here. Just wanted to give everybody a sincere thank you for subscribing to my channel. I'm right at about 670 subscribers, getting close to 700. Really appreciate that. I do have a goal of trying to get to about 1,000, if not over, by the end of the year. So if you like the content, if you're new to the page, continue to support, like, and subscribe, and I'll continue to try and give you this great content. We do film reviews, TV reviews, of course, boxing and music. So looking forward to providing more content for you guys in the future. And thank you for supporting so far. All right, everyone, welcome to the latest edition. We are at episode 5. This one is very unique. We're already coming off the shocker of episode 4. We are in the Charlotte Hale New World Order. We got the timeline straight. We are now 23 years in the future. The original Caleb is gone. Human Caleb is gone. Maeve is destroyed and the humans are on the run. So Charlotte has won, but what does winning look like? What does this new reality look like? This is what we're getting in this episode. Now, let's start at the beginning. The title of the episode is very intriguing. It actually comes from the title of one of the greatest literary works in Chinese history, and also in Daoism history. And I want to make sure I get this pronunciation right. It's Zhuangzi is the name of the actual work. Now, it's a collection of stories. It's written by Zhuangzi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Excuse me if I mispronounce it. He is a very famous figure in Daoism. And this collection is basically a bunch of stories and parables. Some of them is anecdotal. Some of it is humorous, but there's a unifying theme throughout this work. And basically, it's kind of like establishing freedom from the norms of the human world, materialism, things like that, and also having spontaneity in your life or in your actions. And that ties into what we're seeing now in Charlotte's new reality, because there is no spontaneity, there is no freedom. Everything is basically regulated through her and by her. Everything has its imprint from her, including the human beings. Remember, we're over 20 years in the future. So all the humans, there's a lot of human beings that have only grown up in this reality. So we get this very interesting scene to start off with the man in black talking with these two human figures who are well off, well-to-do, the epitome of privilege, financial privilege, high class status, and they believe they're completely self-made. They made everything on their own. They feel like they're in high society now. They're on the same level as the host. They worked hard to get to this point. And William just basically tells them, no, you're full of shit. You've done nothing. Everything that you've done in your life has been programmed for you to get to this point. You have no free will. You have no human agency in your life, but you think you do. And that's why you're sitting in front of me, trying to tell me the story about how you're a self-made individual when really you don't even know what's going on. You don't know who put you in this place, and you don't even know my name, because this is all a game, basically. The hosts are now having these little interactions with human beings just to amuse themselves. And the person, he couldn't even name William. This conversation really just started a couple minutes ago on the whim, just hosts amusing themselves. But everything is cut short. Clementine, excuse me, comes up to William and tells him that they have a problem going on. And the problem that we're finding out, which is really the main issue that's going on in Charlotte's New World, is that there are hosts that are killing themselves, committing suicide. So now this is a very interesting thread, because before, of course, the host waking up and having free will, you think they would be completely happy now. They're running the planet, everything is fine, but you have to keep in mind they are a reflection of us. So at some point, they're going to have the same issues that we as human beings have, which is basically eating ourselves for whatever reason, financially, religion, uh, resources, whatever it is, human beings will find a way to self-destruct. And we're seeing little threads of that now. It's not a lot. It's only, Charlotte mentions 300, not 338 hosts have killed themselves so far. And the interesting thing about that is they're choosing death over what Charlotte calls ascending, which is basically, I guess, ascending to the perfect reality or the perfect status in this society. They're not choosing that. They're choosing to kill themselves. Now, what is making them kill themselves? That's the interesting thing, right? We see an example of one of these hosts. Her name is Hope, which is very ironic because as William and Clementine are walking up to this crime scene, and there's a bunch of dead bodies out there, really leading up to the hotel room where Hope is sitting and detained. We find out that all these dead bodies are human beings that were killed by Hope, who is a host. And essentially, we find out later what caused her to do that is really she was a bounty hunter. Anytime there's a human being that wakes up, they're known as outliers. They send the host after them to kill them. So what we find out is that when they have this interaction with the human beings, it triggers something in the host. And then they start going crazy, they go on a killing spree, and then they kill themselves. So Charlotte's main concern is what is triggering this to happen? What about these interactions with these human beings is triggering us to self-destruct? We see one example because Charlotte has her entire society under surveillance. We see a scene of an outlier that woke up and he's just sitting there looking at a flower, wondering if it's real or not. The host comes up to kill him, which I believe is Hope actually, and she confirms a question that he has. The only question he wants to know, he realizes that she's here to kill him. Is any of this real? Is it even this flower that I'm holding? Is it real? And it's a completely human and somber question. There's not any anger behind it. There's not any yelling at Hope as far as why are you doing this to me? I want answers. He just wants to know before he goes, was anything in my life that I've lived for these 30, 40 years, has anything been real? She confirms with him that the flower is real before killing him. And we're only left to speculate why that would drive them insane. The simple answer would be seeing somebody destroyed like that in an instant, as soon as they come to see enlightenment and see the world as it truly is, it's going to make the host wonder, well, what is my place in this world? What's going to happen to me when I finally, realize this is all a lie and try and come up with a purpose for my own life or my own existence? Am I going to be snuffed out the same way? And if I am, what's the point? What's the point of any of this? And I think that's just too much for the host brain to comprehend. And that's why we have this glitching killing spree. Very interesting to see Charlotte. She's the queen alone now. And it's funny, she's having this interaction with William beforehand. She's going through the town. She's changing things for her whim and for her amusement. She's making the humans dance around, making one create a sculpture out of ice that she hates and makes them start over after destroying it. She has another human being that's actually playing the piano to the bone. His fingers are literally bleeding and falling away. He's been playing so long. And it's all for her amusement. She even gets a bunch of humans that actually come together and make her a human throne. And she's saying all this while talking to William, and she admits that she's bored. This perfect world that she's created, there's no spontaneity of action, just as we mentioned in the Daoist literary work, which is the name of this episode. There's no spontaneity, there's no happiness, there's no joy. And she speculates that, maybe this is the reason why the gods of old, the humans, created, this is the reason why they came down from Mount Olympus and from the heavens, to have these interactions with human beings, not because they're trying to test humans, but because they're literally bored and just wanted some type of action. And William is sitting there looking at her, faithful, right-hand man. He's parroting her to a degree, but you can almost feel the resentment in this host William as he's talking to her, because he tells her that when she talks about boredom, he's like, well, we're created in your image. If you're not liking what you see, it's basically because of you. Everything in this world is because of you. And that goes back to, I believe, the biggest issue that we're seeing in this world is that Charlotte herself is unimaginative. She's not a creative person. She created this whole world based on the only template that she knows. And what is that template? The original Westworld. That's all she knows. And basically, this world is a reflection of that. She can claim that she wants to see the host species grow and to pursue beauty and happiness, all that flowery language she was using when talking with William, but she has no idea what that is. And I feel that goes back to what we saw Caleb mention to her before in the previous episode, he said, I have something that you don't. When she asked him, how were you able to resist me? Now, we didn't get an answer, but I speculate that that's just the human spirit, the human capacity to love and self-sacrifice. I think that's where Caleb was going with that, but I feel like we're going to see more of that later on. Charlotte doesn't have any of that to a degree. Now, the previous recap, I said she doesn't have any of that, but we see a moment where there's anger when she's asking William why this is happening and he's not able to answer it for her. She basically chews him out, says, the human William, I made you based on him, but at least he was competent. You are supposed to be the upgraded version, have all the intellect, all the ability, and you still can't give me an answer. And when she's going off on this rant, she starts bleeding, and she's bleeding from the arm that she never fully repaired. This is the arm when the explosion happened with her and her family in it, and she was the only one to survive, and she was burned to a crisp. So everything has been repaired, but that portion of her arm, which is very interesting because of all her resources, she could have gotten that taken care of, just like she got the rest of her body taken care of. But I feel like she left that because that is a piece of trauma that she can't let go. And that vengeful energy that she has is going to be her undoing. And it's also the reason why we see the world created as it is now. She wants her revenge on the humans, and she feels like this is her biggest revenge to make them completely subservient as the hosts were in the original Westworld. So going back now that we have all this established, what else is going on? So while Charlotte is trying to figure out why her utopia is showing, cracks in the seams, we find that there's a few other things going on with Dolores. She wakes up, she's still in this world of lies, so to speak. She's happy. She had a full night with Teddy. They didn't do anything, as she told her roommate. They just essentially talked the entire night. So she goes into work, and we find out that whatever that discussion was with Teddy, it's sparking something in her brain very slowly. She's very slowly starting to wake up. While she's at work, she decides to create a new narrative. And this new narrative is basically a reflection of her original Dolores narrative in Westworld. But as soon as she starts digging into that, who pops up? Her overbearing boss asking her, why you're creating this narrative, why are you doing this, yada, yada, yada. He seems to be always there when she's about to wake up. And that lets you know from jump that these bounty hunters, or the people that are out in the society to keep the human beings in check, they're also here to keep some of the hosts in check. Because anytime Dolores is trying to break through the matrix a little bit, that boss shows up. Even more so than the roommate. I thought the roommate before was, potentially on the rebel side. I'm still not sure. I'm flipping back and forth on that one, but we know for sure this boss is really in place due to Charlotte, just to make sure that Dolores stays asleep. But while she's having this conversation with her boss, and the boss is trying to grill her about why you're creating new narratives, what are you doing? We don't allow that. Her phone rings. It's Teddy. Teddy tells her exactly what to say to get out of it. They meet up again. And now Teddy, it seems like he's realizing their time is short. So now he needs to speed up waking up Dolores. And how does he do that? He essentially tells her that you realize that there's, a sound, a tower that's causing this situation. You might not be able to see it, but you can feel it. This world is artificial. She tries to fight it at first, but then he gives her the perfect example that she cannot go against. He essentially puts her in front of two people at a distance, asks her, what does she see? She said she mentioned she sees two people that are lonely, that don't seem happy. They're there reading books. And he tells her, well, change it. You have the ability to change it. She thinks he's full of shit. But what does she do? She changes it in her mind, and immediately they're happy in front of her. She thinks it's a coincidence. He says, well, do it again and make them upset and make them have an argument. She does it again in her mind, and then the people change again. And he drops the bombshell on her that you're basically a god in this world. She's still kind of not believing it, but the proof is right there. So she's trying to digest all of this, and lo and behold, while all this is going on, what happens on cue? It's like anytime there's a little bit of disruption in Charlotte's world, she can feel it. Immediately, what's happening, she's late for a catch up, a meeting with her old college roommate. Not the roommate we've been seeing, this new college roommate, this little backstory narrative is actually Charlotte. So when they meet up for lunch, Charlotte is trying to grill her about what's happening. It looks like you met somebody. What's his name? Tell me about him. And while all this is going on, it looks like Dolores is backed into a corner, but now that she realizes her newfound power, she causes a glitch in the system and causes an altercation to happen behind them in this coffee shop that buys her more time to leave. But now we know Charlotte is actually on edge now and wondering what's going on. Um, you have to wonder why she didn't completely try and shut down Dolores if she has the ability, because if you know she's met somebody that she's not willing to speak about, that could be anybody. It can be a rebel, it could be Bernard. Why would you even take that chance? The only thing I can think of is that on some level, Charlotte is afraid of this other version of herself, which Dolores is the sleeping version of her. And she's afraid of engaging her on that level because she probably knows that deep down, if she does that, it may potentially wake her up. And really, Dolores is the only one that's powerful enough to go against her, being that Maeve is no longer in the picture at this moment. So she's playing it very, very carefully, and she doesn't want to risk Dolores potentially waking up and becoming another one of those outliers. Because if she wakes up and somehow links with the rebels, Charlotte knows she's in trouble. So she's still playing it close and not completely flipping the story out and letting Dolores know this is all a facade. But now she's under surveillance again. So she ups the surveillance with Dolores's boss. So when Dolores goes into work again and starts snooping around, checking Charlotte's name, finds out Charlotte's name in the system is restricted, the boss shows up again like on clockwork, asks Dolores to come into the office. He's basically threatening her, talking about if you keep probing, you're going to get a bullet to the head. And then Dolores, just finally says, stop. And when she says that, he immediately stopped. And she reprograms him to basically forget any suspicion he has about Dolores. So that buys her a little bit more time now to kind of figure out what she's going to do. In the meantime, we have an infiltration story going on with the rebels. The rebels are now trying to infiltrate the city because anytime a host becomes, a human wakes up and becomes an outlier, they have a small amount of time to try and get them out of the city. Their protection is really being in the desert. That's away from that tower and that's away from Charlotte's influence. But when they're in that city, they're in danger. So a small group of them, they go and try and find this outlier. This was a little bit of a portion of the episode that kind of took me out of it a bit, as far as being a little bit unrealistic. And what I mean by that is basically they're running through the city trying to find this outlier. And that just made it a little too obvious. It's like, okay, if you're going to be on a infiltration mission, at least try and blend in a little bit. I know the time is short, maybe do a power walk or something, but you're running through there with guns and your backpacks on and everything. You really stand out. So of course, William sees them immediately. He turns part of the city on them to try and capture them. They're fighting them off and they're going in separate directions, trying to find the outlier, which it turns out is on the roof of the building. They're able to get to her in time, but not before she engages with the host version of William. And the same thing that happened with Hope happens here. He doesn't immediately shoot her, so she's able to chat him up a little bit, talk about how, I thought my husband was insane before he was killed. Turns out he was right. I know you feel the same way. The same somberness, the same no combativeness, just an acceptance of their fate, but just wanting a few more moments of living in the real world is all she wanted. And she does something that's very human. She lays her head on his shoulder, just wanting some type of comfort, some type of warmth, that knowing she's not alone. And this triggers something in William for a second. He doesn't completely glitch out like Hope did. And then he tries to step back and shoot her. But then one of the rebels, I can't remember his name offhand, but the head of the rebels, he's there to shoot down William and save her. So they're able to get out of the city. They do the shooting at the top, take out William, grabs her, they run all the way down the building. And even with all these human beings trying to fight them, Charlotte's humans, they're able to make it out of there with a new outlier. So complete failure. William is shot up. Of course, he's a host, so he's not going to die. He ends up getting up a little bit later, but this isn't the same William that was engaging with Charlotte earlier. He's had this human interaction. Now he wants answers. He wants to know who he is. What is his purpose? Does he have any purpose outside of Charlotte's code? What can I do? Like, is this all reality is? Pretty much all the same things that we've seen in like Albert Camus, The Stranger, if you read that back in high school, like most of us did in America. She's really just questioning who he is. So who is he going to go to for answers? Well, Charlotte's not going to give him any. So the next best bet is the original William, the original Man in Black. I was wondering last episode, is he still alive over 20 years later after being kept in isolation in Charlotte's underground lair? He is still alive, still hooked up to the machine, still got the same smart ass mouth. And the host version of William comes up to him and is like, what is this? What is my purpose? He's basically getting emotional the same way Charlotte was when she scratched herself and was bleeding earlier. And the human William is very smug. And he's like, it seems like you got to the center of the maze now. And the center of the maze is basically true enlightenment, basically realizing the entire curtain is pulled back. There's nothing that you're bound to anymore. Religion, societal obligations, all that is stripped away now when you're at the center of the maze. And now, with none of those societal constructs put on you, you have to then determine what is your purpose? Why are you here? And that is completely difficult for most people to do. Most people can't do that. And it seems like in this case, most hosts can't do it either. So William just says, now is the time you need to question the nature of your reality. I can't give you an answer. You have to determine that for yourself. But we know this is the cunning William, and we know he's ready for revenge. He wants to get out of there. So all of this to me tells me that he's basically grooming this host version of himself to basically wake up and realize that, this may be a beautiful world, but it's a dead world. It's a perfect world with no spontaneity of action, no freedom, nothing. It's really a jail. And William used that word earlier when he was talking with the host version, basically stating the jailer, which is Charlotte, may not be the best judge of the jail or the prisoners in it. And they're basically all prisoners in this jail. It might not be the jail that the humans initially made, but it's 10 times worse. And now, if you want to be able to get us out of there, I'm your only hope. I think that's eventually what we're going to see over the next couple episodes. It's going to be the host William and the real William breaking out of there, uh, I guess, to try and take down Charlotte. So this was a very big revelation. I don't see how Charlotte can't realize this is going on. This is another thing that I'm a little shaky about, how that she can realize and see everything in this world, but she can't realize that the host version of William is down there talking with the real William. Maybe this is the one area that's outside of the scope of the matrix and the sound, but we'll see in the next couple episodes. But Charlotte, the walls are slowly closing in. William is her right hand man. He has questions about her now. There's another outlier that's going out to the desert that's probably going to have some more interaction with Bernard and Caleb's daughter, Frankie, and they're going to get more intel on exactly what to do. And then we have Dolores waking up, and when she wakes up, she's definitely going to try and take down this whole world as well. So Charlotte is completely isolated now. She won, but now the cracks are showing, and she really has no one in her corner at this point. It's really just her. And we realize how flawed she is as, the god of this world. Her boredom has bred contempt and complacency. And she hasn't woken up enough, well, excuse me, woken up quick enough to really rectify this situation that's going on with the suicides and everything. So that's another issue that's going on. The walls are closing in, and it's funny, just last episode she was the queen of the world, and now we see literally one episode later the cracks are starting to show. So a lot going on in this episode, a lot of good intel and information. We didn't even get to see what Bernard has going on. We saw Stubbs was on this rendezvous mission with the rebels to get the outlier out, so we got to see a little bit of him. But next episode we know it's going to be focused probably on what's going on with Bernard and his role in trying to resurrect Maeve. Maybe we'll get to see Maeve as soon as next episode, the resurrected version of her. And also Caleb. We got to see what's going on with Caleb now. We know this is he's been through over 200 host versions. What is this new host version that still has his humanity? What is his role going to be and taking down Charlotte as well. That's another person I forgot about. So she's completely alone. And this seems to be the only way to take her down. You got to hit her on so many different fronts that she's not able to handle them all at once. So a very good episode, more of a setup episode, but it really laid a lot of the groundwork down about where Charlotte is and how she's been keeping this world afloat, but how now it's starting to all fall apart. This is almost like an Animal Farm situation where the hosts, now that they've been in power, they've become what the humans were, but worse. We're seeing that now. I also want to mention that I feel like this episode kind of alluded a lot to the effects of depression as well. When we're talking about suicide and things like that, just not knowing any joy in your life or in this world, just feeling like you don't belong in society at any given point. Um, and you feel like that's the only solution because you don't belong. So we see that kind of alludes to what we see with a lot of people in, with depression and things like that. And then on the other end, when you're talking about that term outlier, I think that's a good term for the trailblazers and the people that think outside of the box that we see in society. It doesn't always have to be somebody big, like a celebrity or religious figures from the past or revolutionary figures, things like that. Those are the people that we think about the most. But we can just think about people in our daily lives or in our family, that had to think outside the box of what society wanted for them to try a new career, that may have been historically not a good career or not one that was available to minorities or women, and they still blaze out those paths to make a new reality for themselves. I think that alludes to that as well when we talk about outliers, waking up to realizing you can be more than what society deems appropriate for you. So then that's another factor I didn't think about as far as somebody else combating Charlotte would be, what if we get multiple humans waking up at once that the rebels can't get to, the rebels from the desert, but they become rebels within the city themselves. Like they're able to not only wake up, but to avoid the host bounty hunters and maybe turn some of those hosts on their side. So then you can end up with another rebel faction in the city itself that are immune to that tower sound or God's music, as Charlotte calls it, that are immune to that. And then after her as well. So in the end, we might end up with like 4 or 5 different groups coming for Charlotte's head. So she's gonna have to figure something out. This is episode 5. We got 3 more episodes, 6, 7, and 8 for Charlotte to try and get it together and try and survive. Before I told you it looked like she was unstoppable, and now I'm starting to see the cracks. But I want to wrap this up. I know I've been talking for a minute. What do you think about this episode? Of course, not as fantastic and jaw-dropping as episode 4, but I think this was a good, very good setup episode for a strong finish that we'll probably see in episode 7 and 8. So let me know what you think about these themes that we saw, the deism thrown in, that Far East mysticism and philosophy that we got in this episode. How do you think that played with some of the Christian imagery that we got in the earlier episodes? So let me know what you think and look forward to our next review, which will be episode 6. It'll be up at 10 p.m. Eastern time, right after the episode airs. Make sure if you like the content to like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.